Larry, good to have you with us today. Florence is moving closer and closer to the coastline there of the United States. It appears to be strengthening at this point. As we mentioned, it could be the strongest to hit the Carolinas in almost 30 years. So pretty dramatic. Well, that is if it does hit in that way. What is the impact as we stand that we're seeing on the commodities complex more broadly?
Well, what we're seeing, it happened about 12 noon Chicago time today. A lot of speculative buying, as the hurricane gets closer, as mathematical algorithms get more precise on where it's going to make landfall and what it might do to supply and shutting down refineries, etc. So we see just an enormous spike in WTI going into the afternoon, and have to say that the volume was actually pretty good. I mean, there was a lot more speculative buying this week than there was with the previous hurricane scare that we had not too long ago.
So what is the potential impact likely to be then on oil production? As you say, we have seen a big spike in the oil price, as you would expect, because of that supply potentially coming offline. What is the likely impact, as far as we can see it now, on the oil production lines?
Yeah, first of all, I'm wondering if it's not already priced or fully priced into the market. I don't know. It's hard to say, but it definitely would cause devastation with refineries, especially downline refineries, just getting oil to market. But the United States does have reserve capacity that they can release some oil like they've done in years past. But it could also impact soybean markets, corn markets, etc. But energy, specifically, especially around the Gulf region, when it comes to so much transportation of that going up along the East Coast.
What about gasoline prices? As we mentioned there's a lot of expectation we could see a dramatic spike in gasoline prices because of these mass evacuations and those heavy rainfalls, affecting those major fuel pipelines. Are you expecting to see a significant rise or a significant jump in those gasoline prices?
Yeah, I think we could just see, a knee-jerk reaction with gas prices going higher. However, looking at a lot of previous hurricanes, it seems like demand actually diminishes pretty quickly as people aren't driving, except for those who are evacuating the area. So it's a little bit counterintuitive. But yeah, I see short-term prices definitely rising. Mainly for logistical reasons that gasoline can't get to the market, even though we're well supplied with gasoline.
What do you see as the other major risks for oil prices right now? Obviously, the lingering trade concerns are kind of dominating every conversation, it seems, across all markets, not just commodities. What do you see as the likely impact, particularly on the demand side of things, because of the US-China trade war?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And keep in mind that on a 5-day basis, WTI is barely positive. It's all really today's action that we've seen. But I think the narrative, forgetting about the hurricane for a minute, but the narrative has switched to demand. I mean, that's something people haven't talked about or even worried about for a long time, but something that I've been talking about for months, and I really have not been right about it. But I just think that you have a strong U.S. dollar. You have oil prices that are well above $100 a barrel in a lot of the emerging market. You see demand I could just see demand diminishing. And not only that, but you think the last 18 months we've been running as a global demand growth has been running well above a 10-year average. And I just don't think that can exist, even if oil demand or oil prices level off. I just think we've been running too fast and too far, and it's time for a respite, as it were.
Let's just broaden the conversation outside of commodities and just going with the theme, obviously, of the trade issues going on. Today we did see a rebound in markets, but it's not to say that obviously the lingering concerns haven't gone away. And we're still waiting on some sort of resolution. What is your thought on how markets are responding right now? Because they seem to have been quite resilient up until this point. But do you think stocks could be in for quite a volatile ride if we do see this trade dispute with China intensifying?
Yeah, exactly. Like right now, what's the big worry is that the leadership is, so thin. I mean, we had a really wonderful, a great Q2 earnings season. Business surveys are still good. Consumer confidence is at a decade high. But the leadership is very, very thin. And, other than the tech bubble in the late 1990s, I can't remember a time when so few stocks were carrying the load for the rest of the the stock market. And also, you think, is the stock market cheap? I say relatively no, because it's still a better value than bonds. But on an absolute basis, it's trading at an 82 percentile. At least the S&P 500 is. So I just think it's something that it's not going to be a problem until it is a problem. And when those things happen, they drop like a lead balloon. So right now, all is well, but that could change in a heartbeat. And I am very worried about the thinning leadership in the U.S. stock market.
So, when we think about, obviously, the stock market and emerging markets as well, what's going on there, because that contagion effect, that's obviously put a lot of pressure as well. Do you think that will lead to, a downtick over and above all of the what's going on geopolitically? I mean, the fundamentals, you can't deny with how strong they look at the moment. But with that emerging market contagion, do you think that could be the catalyst to perhaps unwind US economic growth?
I think it could, and very easily, but it's just a tinderbox that's smoking a little bit right now. However, it seems like right now, the downward revision in emerging market hasn't been as impactful as it has been in the past. Bank leverage isn't as wide as it was 10, 20 years ago. So overall, it's going to take a little bit more for that to happen, but it's not something we should sleep on and realize that it could happen at a moment's notice.
Excellent, Larry Shover. We'll leave it there. Appreciate you joining us, though, today. Thank you so much.